Hello and welcome to the Tipsy Beekeeper, where I do urban beekeeping and homemade wine and mead making. Today, got some Jim Beam's Devil's Cut. In my video today, I'm going to cut to it as soon as I possibly can. It's a lot of good information about how to get a Varroa Mite count out of your hive. If you're a beekeeper, you know what Varroa Mites are. I'm going to explain it to you what they are if you're not a beekeeper, but I want to get right to the clip and get all that information out there. So see you in a second. I have to start out with what is a Varroa Mite. Plain and simple, Varroa Mites are a parasite that lives on the bees. The foraging bees go out, and while they're on flowers and other plants and stuff, they pick up these Varroa Mites while they're out there, and then they bring them back to the hive. Now, the life cycle of a Varroa Mite is that when the bee brings it back, the Varroa Mite then goes down into the comb where the queen is laying the eggs. The Varroa Mite then lays its eggs along with the queen's egg, so that as the baby bee grows up inside of the comb, the parasites or Varroa Mites grow and feed off of that baby bee. Varroa Mites can be devastating to a hive. A super strong hive can do a pretty good job of policing the Varroa Mites up, but even a super strong hive just can't keep up with them, especially because the Varroa Mites end up living on the backs of the bees where they can't groom themselves. Almost all hives have Varroa Mites. It's just a matter of how many Varroa Mites do you have and what you're going to do to treat them. It seems like up north the Varroa Mites aren't as bad as down south, because at least up in the north they get harsh winters that will go off and kill a lot of the Varroa Mites over their cold hard winters. We're down here in the south in Florida, all the other southern states, we don't get those cold snaps, so the Varroa Mite count out in the wild for the bees to pick up stays at a higher rate. So even if you kill off all the Varroa Mites in your hive, it's only a matter of time before the foresters or foragers pick up more bees, pick up more Varroa Mites, and then bring them back into the hive. So what you have to do is try and get an accurate count of how many mites are in your hive in order to figure out what kind of a treatment that you want to do. So today I'm doing an alcohol wash on my hives. First, you have to start, which is what I've been doing through this video so far, by trying to find the queen, because you don't want to kill the queen in this process. You never want to kill your queen, but you do have to kill some bees in order to get an accurate count. So I've decided that this frame that I'm looking at doesn't have the queen, and I'm setting it to the side for now. Put this one over here for right now. Ultimate goal is to get one scoop full of bees and put it in this Varroa checker, 1 cupful to be exact. Because what I do is you put the bees in there and then you fill the container full of rubbing alcohol, which kills the bees instantly, but it also kills the Varroa Mites and lets them release off of the bees. Then you shake this container vigorously, and the dead Varroa Mites fall off of the bees and sink down to the bottom through the filters on it. This way you can hold it up in the air and get an accurate count of just how many Varroa Mites are in your hives. Because if you've only got like 3 or 4 Varroa Mites in the container, your bees are doing a pretty good job of taking care of it, and you don't have that high of a Varroa Mite infestation. But this is why I'm being so careful looking for the queen, because I don't want her to end up in the mix and me accidentally kill her. Now that I'm fairly confident that the queen bee is not on either of those frames, I'm going to shake them off into that plastic container. The reason why I'm going to do that is because I want the nurse bee that is nursing those brood frames, because those nurse bees are the ones that just recently hatched out and are going to have Varroa Mites on them, so you're going to get the most accurate count. I take one last hard look to make sure that the queen is not inside this group of bees. If she was and I did accidentally kill her, I can always requeen the hive, but that's then going to set them back on producing new bees, and you don't want to do that. You want your hive to remain strong. The next step is I'm actually going to pick this container up and shake it down so that all those nurse bees drop down to the bottom in a big gigantic clump, so that I can take a cup and scoop them up and put them into the Varroa checker. Want to have 1 cup of bees, which is about 300 bees, and there's also inside the Varroa checker 2 lines marked, so you want to have your bees somewhere in between those 2 lines. At this point, I go ahead and put the rest of the hive back together so that I can continue on with the check. Now I'm going to take and shake it 1 thump so it lets all the bees settle down to the bottom, so I can open the lid without the many of them crawling out. And then I completely cover the bees with rubbing alcohol, which kills them instantly. They don't suffer at all. They die instantly with the rubbing alcohol. After that, you want to take the container and shake it for at least 5 minutes solid. What that's going to do is release all the mites off of the bees, and they're going to be able to float down the bottom. Then you can just hold it up in the air and get a count of how many Varroa mites you have.
Shaking for quite some time now. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
An acceptable count of Varroa mites where you don't have to treat would be anywhere from 2 to 4. But I'm definitely way over at 10, so this hive, the Empire hive, is definitely going to get a treatment of oxalic acid. You can see they're very, very, very small. They're only the size of like half of a flea. So that's the count for the Empire hive is at 10. Now I'm going to go over to the Rebel hive and do the same thing, starting out looking to see if I can find the queen.
Since I found the queen, I don't really have to keep looking at the frames anymore. I can go ahead and do my Varroa shakes. Alright, I'm going to put her right here with you guys. Keep an eye on her for me. That way they can get all settled back super mad at me. I don't know. Alright, so get him down. Alright, so from here, I shake. So the shaking, the bees are all dead now. The Varroa mites are dead. But what I'm doing is I'm getting those Varroa mites to fall off of my bees. Oh my goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Oh, I have a horrible parasite problem. Horrible. There's over 20 mites in here, which represents, like, acceptable is 3 to 4. You need to treat is like 7 to 8. So yeah, the rebel hive is just infested with parasites. So tomorrow I'm definitely going to start treating them with oxalic acid. I'll try and go. Alright, so as you can see, my mite count is really high and I'm going to need to do a Varroa mite treatment. I've got one of these oxalic acid wands that I'm going to do the treatment with. If you want to see how I do that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications, because I'm going to make a whole nother video on how to do an oxalic acid treatment. So, till next time, bottoms up from the Tipsy Beekeeper.